You have one of the all-time draft night, if not the all-time draft night line of Bruno Caboclo is 2 years away from being 2 years away.
I should have copyrighted it. Honestly, I should have trademarked it. And I slipped it in last night, guys, because, I'm the Jose Alvarado of the broadcast. They use me for 10 minutes. I come in, I make things happen, and then, I go to the bench. But
who did you use it on?
I used it on Kareem Lopez when I said this kid's not 2 years away, and only a couple people caught it.
Nice.
Now, was it a extemporaneous comment? Was it just something that popped in your head when Bruno?
The history of it is really cool. In fact, The Ringer did a 10-year anniversary of that 2 years ago, of the whole incident. And I was one of the few people that knew who Bruno was. And Amin knows this. It's very rare that a player, the teams know, all 30 teams know virtually every single player. Well, Bruno was down in Brazil and had played at a Basketball Without Borders event down in Argentina. And ultimately, there were only 5 or 6 teams that knew about him, including Toronto. And Jonathan Givony, we all know this now. He was pretty much on the payroll for the Raptors as a consultant. So Bruno never showed up in the mock draft, any of his mock drafts, even though he was probably a top 40, 50 type guy. And I knew about him through some of my NBA friends. And basically, I did not think he would go in the first round. He wasn't supposed to, but Toronto panicked when he heard some other teams were going to take him early second. They took him, and I said, well, he's considered the Brazilian Kevin Durant. In America, he would be a top 50 recruit. I ran out of things to say. And when I was a young assistant coach, whenever my head coach would send me to go see a kid that wasn't any good, I'd come back the next day and he would say to me, what'd you think of the big white kid from Toledo? And I'd say, Coach, he's 2 years away from being 2 years away. That was, and so it just slipped out of my mouth that night because I had run out of things to say about Bruno. And I felt really bad about it for years until I realized the young man was a first round pick with guaranteed money. Yeah. He's still playing over in Europe. He's been on the Brazilian Olympic team, and we've never met. I've been like 50 feet from him at the NBA Summer League when he was playing. I wish I could meet him and say, hey, when we both die, it's going to be in our obituaries. So it's worked out well, but I should have trademarked that line.
Yeah, Coach, because I was saying it to Tom and Maze, the number of times I've seen people use that term, not in basketball. I'm like, wait a second, that's Coach's term. But like, is it fun for you to see it just kind of proliferate and it become just a part of the way people talk now?
I'm still known, of all the things I did, on the NBA draft for 12 years. By the way, I'm back, in a small role last night. That was cool, hopefully. Like I said, Jose Alvarado. I tell people, listen, Steve Nash was drafted by the Phoenix Suns, and they had Kevin Johnson and Jason Kidd ahead of him. And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm Steve Nash here with this great talent we have on the draft. But no, having said that, it is kind of cool because for about 6 or 7 years, you guys know this, when Woj came, he brought his draft team. Mm-hmm. And I wish Woj, and we're friendly, we're not close friends. I wish he'd have said, listen, I'm bringing my guys, Schmitz and Givony, but we need to keep Fran on the draft. And unfortunately, ESPN, sometimes it's just the way it works out. People don't think about that. So I'm back, but it is cool that I go through an airport and they go, love your work. I haven't done a draft in like 7 years. And they go, hey, you're great on the draft. And I don't want to tell them I haven't done it. So I'm actually more known for the draft sometimes than I am doing college basketball games. It's crazy.
Do you have takes that you were sad you couldn't get on the air, on the record about players?
Well, I always say that they went to the commercial break when Jokic was picked. Remember, they went to the Taco Bell commercial? And you might have been with us at the time. I can honestly say, having seen Jokic in person when he was 18, I did not see this coming, this great career. But since nobody knows what I was going to say that night, I always tell people, "Oh yeah, man,
I was gushing.
yeah, I was dying to say that this kid is like this fat kid's going to be like the best player in the league someday." That would not be true. If even if self-serving, it would not be true. But yeah, there's times through the years that I wish some second round pick I could have jumped in and said, "Hey, I just coached this kid at the Euro camp, and I really like him." But that was a great era for me on the draft because, as you guys know, none of us knew about the translation between the international game and the NBA. Even back in 2004, I mean, you know this, even if teams had NBA scouts over there, nobody really knew, like, how do you translate French Pro A to the NBA or the Adriatic League, or how do you know some 6'3" white kid would be a Division III point guard in America or the next Steve Nash? None of us knew that. I got to learn it on the fly at the Euro camp because we saw, Dragic, Ibaka, Gallinari, Bogdanovich, and we had 80 draft picks in that 12-year period. So we all learned on the fly. And now the crazy thing is my job's almost obsolete on the international side. I know the college kid's cold, but they're all over here playing in college
They're over
now.
here, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you're better off coming over here than making, and you guys know this, like the typical 18-year-old Serbian in the Adriatic League or on that junior team from Partizan, he's lucky if he's making $1,500 a month.
Right.
And
Coach,
now these kids are coming to Illinois and making $750,000.
So to that end, do you see a reaction at all from the European leagues over the next few years to react to their talent pool getting drained out by American colleges?
I think they're concerned, and I'm not sure what they can do about it just yet. I don't know what action you can take to keep a kid who's 17 or 18 from having his agent say, "Listen, I can get you to Red Star and you'll be a backup, but I can also get you to Illinois and you could play on national TV in front of thousands of people and pay and make $750,000." So I'm anxious to see how it affects European basketball going forward, because there's definitely a talent drain, at least during the season, because these kids can still go back in the summer and play on their, under 20 team or maybe the national teams of the various countries.
Well, there's a different dynamic now with the NIL money. For the end of the first round and early second round, is a lot of guys pulled out of the draft or decided, like, I'm going to go back and make millions in college. But there was one guy, Isaiah Evans, who stayed in this draft and was not drafted in the first round. What was your reaction to seeing Isaiah Evans, who I feel like at Duke was one of the best pure shooters in the country, and still was not picked in the first round?
Well, if I was grading guys, if I was working in the Phoenix Suns draft room, I would have had a first round grade on the kid. And the ironic thing is, not only did he not get drafted in the first round, think of all the players that would have been first round picks that went back to college.
Yeah.
Like Thomas Houck. So that's in a normal draft, that might slide Isaiah Evans, like, typically, like, we'll see. I think he's going to go early tonight. He has to. He's a good player. But, he would have gone 45 in a normal draft. And that surprised me. It really did. There were a couple guys. There's another guy that I have my notes inside, but he was definitely a surprise. I thought he had first round talent. I think that's the other thing, is, you guys know, when you get to the 20s, you're for example, the Spanish kid is not coming over. I don't know where he ended up, because I had him with the Lakers, and then he was traded to the Knicks in that time period when I was talking about him. Then he got traded twice more. And I think he ended up in Dallas.
Dallas, yeah.
Yeah. But we didn't think we'd see draft and stash guys anymore. I mean, but
yeah,
maybe Dallas will bring him over. The Knicks have no room for him, as you guys know. Maybe Dallas does, and I don't really have a good grade on him. I think he's a mid-second round pick, and people are gushing about guys like this. He was the 7th leading scorer on his team. Doesn't mean he can't play in the NBA, but it's not like we're getting, a Gallinari, say, when Gallo came out, or so. Even, but he reminds me of Bogdanovich. He's just a whole level below my man Bogey. But Isaiah Evans was definitely a surprise. I was shocked that he didn't go in the first round.
Coach, when you look at the first round, who was the guy that you felt like, this guy went this high? Would it be Sergio Delario or is there someone else?
Well,
you
he
have in
would
mind?
he would certainly be, but the asterisk there, I mean, is as you know, sometimes the international guys have more sex appeal because people don't know about him, and
Right.
I don't know what Masai's planning for him. I think the kid will stay over another year. I know he loves playing in Valencia, and he's a star over there. And he's actually not a star. He doesn't even start. He's the seventh leading scorer on a really good Valencia team that, by the way, is up 2-1 on Barcelona in the ACB finals. I think they play tonight. Today's Wednesday. I think they play tonight in game 4. But I'm trying to think, like, Alan Graves intrigues me, even though I really like him. I think, like, maybe because we don't know as much about him and he didn't start this year, that there could be some bust factor. I'm not willing to put bust on him yet. The guy that I'll go the other way. I mean, the guy I absolutely loved, and I was glad he went ninth was Morez Johnson Jr.
Oh yeah,
Huge
it's
fan.
it's so fascinating that Dusty May gets hired and then 2 days later he gets to draft one of his own players. Can you? I don't think that was that quick when Rick Pitino was doing this with Boston and his guy.
It was a year later, because he got the Boston job, but Antoine Walker was already there.
Yeah,
but then he got to Boston and he took Ron Mercer. Was it Ron Mercer?
Yeah, Ron Mercer
and a couple other guys. Yeah.
Well,
Wayne Turner.
He drafted Chauncey, didn't he, and traded him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chauncey traded him mid-season. He drafted Wayne Turner. He traded for Walter McCarty, if you remember. He traded Chris Mills away for Walter McCarty.
Oh, boy.
So he got his guys back together, and I'll never forget this, Coach. They asked Antoine Walker, hey, you must be so excited that Patino's going to be your coach. And Antoine, it reminded me of the Seinfeld episode where the doctor is testifying. How did George react when you told him his wife died, or his fiance died? It says, I could only describe it as restrained jubilation. It's like the opposite. As just like he was so crestfallen, but he was just like, oh, I'm so happy to play for Coach Patino.
I know. Well, I think there's and getting back to Dusty, while I was surprised, I have a son that's in the league, as Amin may know. He actually is with the Washington Wizards as an assistant coach, and he told me a few weeks ago, we were talking. He came home after the season. He goes, "Dad, you couldn't coach in the NBA. You yell too much." He said, and he said he had a great line I never heard. He said, "You have to coach friendly in this league." Which I thought was really cool. Like you can be these guys will be accountable to you if they as you guys know if they know you're trying to make them better and you really care about them. But you have to coach friendly, man. And I thought that was a great line. And I do think Dusty has that ability, like a Brad Stevens, very smart guy. And also, I think he's got a demeanor to coach NBA players. Now, we know, and you've heard me say this before, the difference between the NBA and the college basketball is the difference between Spanish and Portuguese. They sound alike, but they're two different languages. And so we'll see how he adjusts to the NBA, but he's got himself a really good player. I love Morez Johnson. Don McClain has been working him out in LA for CAA. And when I talked to Donnie this week, he absolutely raves about him. And I think there's a lot there. I also thought his stock went up during the NBA Finals when you watch the physicality, especially the Knicks, right? And, OG and Mitchell Robinson. And I said, you could put Morez Johnson in this game right now, and he will not wilt.
Well, Coach, let me ask you about the other two Michigan guys. Jackson Landenberg goes to Golden State at 11, and then Adai Mara goes to Oklahoma City at 12. I really like Mara for OKC because they're going to have to make a decision on Hartenstein. Yep. And the decision is probably going to be we can't afford him. And so you have a guy who's a great passer like Hartenstein, who's got size and a rim protector like Hartenstein, and nice touch around the rim like Hartenstein, but maybe not as mobile on the perimeter. Right. How do you like that fit for OKC?
Well, about 4 weeks ago, I was thinking watching maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks ago watching the playoffs. And thinking about OKC and San Antonio in the West, and thinking about, as you guys know, this could be a decade-long rivalry if everybody stays healthy. And I thought, wow, Mara makes sense. Maybe OKC would trade 12 and 17 to move up to 8 and get Mara because maybe he's a Wemby antidote. But then I watched how Wemby on the perimeter just goes by guys. Right. And I'm thinking, like, Adai's going to be in drop. He's going to be backing off. There's no way he can stay in front of Wemby on the perimeter. But I trust Sam Presti that they have a plan for Mara, not necessarily to combat Wemby, because I think OG Anunoby did a good job of combating Wemby, and Alex Caruso did a good job of defending him. But they must know something about Mara and how he's going to fit in with this team for the decade to come to be able to, to take him. So I'm confident they have a game plan, but I don't think it's necessarily to combat Wemby.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
In a 7-game series, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think they're probably the opportunity to get different looks to Wemby rather than have him be a Wemby stopper, right?
Yeah.
Is that Mara can be a different look for him, and they have Jaden McDaniel. Sorry, I keep saying Jaden McDaniels. Jalen Williams and Alex Caruso to be that kind of OG, just pest and strength, you know, low size. Now, my other thing here is I want to know your take on the top 3 because I have Cameron Boozer as my favorite player in the draft, but I can understand the upside of AJ DeBonsa, but I wish he shot better from 3. And he hadn't. And Cam is a really good shooter from 3. But I in my head I just have this thing of I wish I had seen, for all of his size and gifts, DeBonsa. I just wish he shot the ball a little bit better, and he takes a lot of mid-range shots, and I wonder how that translates at the next level.
He will. I'm telling you, I watched him a lot. There's nothing wrong with the shot. Those kids who get to the basket effortlessly, or in his case, to the mid-range and just shoot over you, where I think he shot 52% from the mid-range, which, analytically I think would be more than adequate, right? But no, I don't think there's any. I just think he's the guy that can always get to where he wants on the court. And that's going to change in the league, and maybe he's going to have to be able to cultivate that three-point shooting. I think Paul George shot 34%, I think, from 3 at Fresno State, and he's become a really good shooter. I loved Cam Boozer. I think he might have been the best player in this draft. I understand, unlike last year where you could have 4 great power forwards on your roster, you were still taking Cooper Flagg, no matter what. Yeah. But this might have been a case where when you look at Washington with AD, Sarr, the plethora of young guards, that AJ kind of plugs and plays right away. I wouldn't have had any problem because Washington is okay East, despite the fact that people don't think they know what they're doing. Michael Winger, maybe I'm a little biased, but they have a plan. They plan to lose on purpose. They did a great job of that. They got lucky. They probably went overboard on that one, but they got lucky with the pick. But I saw AJ a lot. I will say this, guys. I've never saw him take one practice off. He certainly played his butt off in the games. Down 20 against Clemson in the Garden at the half, came back and willed that team to a win, almost willed them to a win in Boston over UConn, led the country in scoring. Can his defense get better? Yes. But as I always say, guys, I coached for 23 years. It's so much harder to find a guy that can put the ball in the basket. I could teach guys to play defense. They were crushing Darius Acuff. Give me Darius Acuff by the way, we used to tell our guys in college, if you're close, don't foul the guy. You're going to give up a basket, but you're going to get us 10 points for the one foul that gives you your second or third foul. We got to sit you down. So all these guys who allegedly are not good defenders will become out. In my mind, they'll become serviceable. Hey, if you don't mind, give me one more question, and I got to hit a production meeting.
Sure thing. Then I'm going to go with Jaxel Lendeberg.
Yeah.
Speaking of defense, his ability to be a versatile defensive player and also a pretty good passer and on offense, kind of Draymond-esque. Do you see him developing into that kind of player, maybe with a better offensive upside?
Well, it looks that way, and it doesn't. That was the logical place, Golden State, because the window's still cracked open a little, and they're getting a guy that's going to turn 24 in September, and has markedly improved, and maybe has more improvement. I really like it. Now, if you ask me, depending on where your team is, I'm taking Nate Ament at 19 years old if I'm Milwaukee because we're rebuilding. I'm taking Lendeborg if I'm Golden State because we still have, Draymond and hopefully Jimmy Butler at some point, and obviously Steph. and you kind of plug and play Yaks with the idea that maybe eventually he's going to replace Draymond as Draymond winds down, this crazy good career.
Well, Coach, I will make note of this on your way out, that in 2014 in the NBA draft, it was the Jokic draft and the Bruno draft. So what an epic Fran Fraschilla night that was. So I remember Tim Connolly saying if we thought Nikola Jokic was that good, we would have drafted him instead of Yusuf Nurkic.
Just remember, do you know do you guys have you heard of the Hollywood producer William Goldman? He was the GOAT. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, bunch of great movies. He had a movie come out one time and they asked him, the GOAT now, what do you think of this movie? He goes, nobody knows anything. and his point, if we all knew what we were doing, then why did Jalen go 33rd? Tyrese Maxey, you guys know this is so inexact, and so much of it is what's in a kid's heart and how bad he wants to be an NBA player. And we always say this. I mean, you lived it. Some guys want to be in the NBA, and some guys want to be NBA players, and there's a difference.
Yep.
Love it.
Absolutely. Coach, thanks a lot for joining us. We really
glad we
appreciate
could do
the time.
it. So I'm glad I got to stop him and stand around and got some good reception.